James sat in the corner of the restaurant, staring at his phone. The soft light of the chandelier reflected on his gold watch, making it shine like a small sun. His expensive suit fit perfectly, but it did nothing to calm his nerves. He had been here before, in fancy places, meeting people who wanted to talk about his money, his car, or his lifestyle. But tonight was different. Tonight, he was supposed to meet someone who didn't know him at all. He glanced at the empty chair across from him. The table was set perfectly with white linen, shining glasses, and the delicate scent of roses in a small vase. James tapped his fingers on the table. Where is she? He thought. Is she going to come? His heart beat a little faster. He hated waiting. Patience was never his strength. A waiter passed by, whispering politely, "Your drink, sir." James took the glass of expensive red wine and stared at it without drinking. His mind wandered. He had never done blind dates before. Usually, people found him through work, business deals, or mutual friends. But this was something new, something real, or at least it could be. The restaurant was quiet. Most tables were full, but no one seemed to notice him, except for a few people who glanced and whispered. James felt their eyes. They see the money. They see the success. But they don't see me, he thought. He shook his head, trying to focus. Suddenly, a small shadow ran across the floor. James looked down. A little black boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, ran straight to him. The boy's shoes made soft tapping sounds on the marble floor. James frowned. Who is this kid? He wondered. The boy stopped in front of him and looked up with wide eyes. My dad's coming, the boy said, pointing toward the entrance. His voice was loud enough to make a few heads turn. James blinked. The words didn't make sense. My dad's coming? He thought. He looked around. There was no man with the boy. The boy's small hand waved again. He's coming. Don't go. James leaned back in his chair. He was not sure if he should be annoyed, confused, or curious. The boy smiled at him, a little mischievous, a little innocent. Who are you? James asked, keeping his voice calm but firm. The boy didn't answer directly. He just smiled and looked around, like he was waiting for something or someone. James noticed the way people in the restaurant now watched him more closely. Some whispered. Some just stared. James felt the tension. This is not normal, he thought. He tried to focus on his phone again, hoping the moment would pass. But the boy stayed, moving a little closer to the table. Don't worry. He's almost here, the boy said with a strange certainty. James's heart skipped a beat. The words felt too personal, too direct. Almost here? Who? He thought. He looked toward the door, but it was still empty. The waiter came back. Is everything okay, sir? He asked politely. James nodded, trying to hide his confusion. Yes, fine, he said, though his voice sounded strange even to him. The boy looked at James again. You're going to meet him soon. I promise, he said. His eyes sparkled, but there was something serious behind that sparkle, something that made James uneasy. James leaned forward. Look, kid, I don't know you. Who are you talking about? The boy shrugged. I just know. He's coming. Your life will change tonight. James laughed nervously. He didn't know why, but the boy's words made him tense. Something about this little child felt important, urgent, maybe even dangerous. He tried to ignore it, but he couldn't. The restaurant noise faded around him. He only heard the boy's soft voice and the little tapping of his shoes. The boy sat down on the edge of the chair across from James, still smiling. James felt his curiosity grow. Then, almost like a whisper to himself, the boy said, He's coming. You'll see. Everything will be different. James's eyes widened. He didn't know what to say. He didn't even know what he was waiting for. But one thing was clear. Tonight would not be a normal blind date. Something unusual was about to happen. And the boy knew more than he should. James took a deep breath. The glass of wine in his hand trembled slightly. He looked toward the door, again, hoping he would see someone coming. But the boy's words echoed in his mind. My dad's coming. Who is this boy? And who is coming for James tonight? The questions filled the air. The suspense hung like a heavy cloud. The audience, like James, was waiting for the door to open, waiting for the moment that would change everything. James could still hear the boy's small voice echoing in his mind. My dad's coming. He had tried to ignore it before, But now every sound in the restaurant seemed sharper, louder, more significant. The soft clinking of plates, the low hum of conversation, even the gentle tick of the clock on the wall, it all seemed to point towards something about to happen. Something he wasn't ready for. The boy leaned forward slightly, his eyes still sparkling, but there was a strange intensity behind them now. "He's coming right now," he said. "You'll see." James forced a smile, though his stomach twisted in an odd mix of fear and curiosity. "And who exactly is coming?" he asked. He tried to sound calm, but even he could hear the hesitation in his voice. The boy shrugged, as if it was obvious. "You'll know soon. Just wait." James shook his head, trying to regain control. He was a millionaire. He was used to controlling every situation, every meeting, every problem. Yet here he was, at a fancy restaurant, with a strange child predicting something he couldn't even understand. Then it happened. A waiter approached James's table, carrying a small envelope. He handed it over silently and walked away. James looked at it. No name, no stump, just a single word written neatly on the front. James. He opened it slowly. Inside was a note, typed on expensive paper. "Do not leave. He's waiting for you. Everything will change tonight. Trust the boy." James froze. He looked up. The boy was grinning now, as if he had expected James to read the note. "See," the boy said. "I told you." James's heart pounded. This was no ordinary blind date. There was something else. Something planned. He looked around the restaurant, watching other diners. Were they in on this too? Or was it just him, caught in some strange game? He looked at the boy again. "Who sent this?" he asked, his voice low. The boy didn't answer. He just shook his head and whispered, "Not me. You'll find out soon." James took a deep breath and leaned back. He needed a moment to think, but his mind raced. His life had always been controlled, predictable, and calculated. He had built a fortune with careful planning and smart decisions. Yet tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, he was part of something he didn't understand. The boy got up suddenly and ran to the door. He pressed his small hand against the glass, looking outside. "He's here," the boy shouted. James jumped to his feet and rushed to the window, his heart racing. Outside, a sleek black car had just stopped. The engine hummed softly. The driver opened the door, and a man stepped out. James's eyes widened. The man was tall, confident, and familiar. There was something about his face, a look he couldn't place. The boy ran back to James, tugging at his sleeve. "See? I told you," he said. "He's not what you expect." James's mind spun. He knew a lot of people in business, in society, even in politics. But this man, he didn't belong anywhere James could place him. And yet, something about him felt important. Very important. The door of the restaurant opened slowly. James turned, expecting a stranger to walk in. But the man outside stepped in carefully, scanning the room as if he was looking for someone specific. And then his eyes met James's. James felt a strange chill. The man smiled faintly, a knowing smile that made James uneasy. Who was he? And why did the boy know him? Before James could say anything, the boy whispered, "Everything is connected. Your past, your life, your choices. He's here to show you. And maybe change everything." James stared at the man. He wanted to ask questions, to demand answers. But his voice was gone. The man walked closer, moving with confidence, but not arrogance. Every step seemed deliberate, purposeful, as if he was carrying secrets in his very posture. The boy tugged James's hand. "Sit back down," he said softly. "It's almost time." James obeyed, though his mind raced. He watched the man approach the table, each step heavier than the last. There was tension in the air, something almost electric. The other diners seemed to fade away. It was just James, the boy, and the man. James could feel that his life was about to change. Something in the boy's eyes, the man's presence, and the cryptic note told him that nothing would ever be the same after tonight. And then, the man stopped right in front of the table. He looked down at James and said, quietly but firmly, "You don't know me yet, but you will. And by the end of tonight, your life will never be the same." The boy smiled. "I told you, didn't I?" James swallowed hard. He felt a mixture of fear, curiosity, and excitement. His blind date had turned into something he never expected. something bigger, something life-changing. And the audience, just like James, was left wondering, who is this man? What does he want? And why is the boy so certain that James's life would change? The suspense hung thick in the air. The stage was set for the next revelation. James sat back down, still staring at the man across the table. His mind was racing. Who was this person? Why did the boy seem to know him? Why did the note say everything would change tonight? But before he could speak, the boy leaned closer. "You're nervous," the boy said simply, as if reading James's mind. James blinked. I guess I am," he admitted. He felt strange saying it. He wasn't used to talking to children like this, and yet the boy's presence was comforting in a strange way. "And you, why are you here? Why are you calling me?" He stopped. "Why are you calling him your dad?" The boy shrugged. "I don't call him dad yet. But you might be part of it too. You just don't know how." James frowned. The words made no sense. But the boy's eyes, they had a truth James couldn't ignore. There was no lie there, no mischief. Only certainty. The boy jumped onto the chair across from him, sitting like he belonged there. "Sit closer," he said. "We need to talk, but not too loud." "He's listening." James's pulse quickened. "Listening." The boy nodded, his face serious now. "He's important. He watches everything, even before you see him. But don't worry. You'll understand soon." James rubbed his forehead. This was getting stranger by the minute. He was a man who lived a life of control and logic. Yet, here he was, sitting with a child who seemed to know secrets about him and the man outside. "What do you want from me?" James finally asked. The boy leaned back, looking thoughtful. "I want you to listen. That's it. For now." James tilted his head. "Listen to what?" The boy smiled, but it was soft, almost sad. "To the things you've forgotten. The things you've never noticed. The things you're about to see tonight. You think your life is about you, but it's not. Everything connects: your choices, your past, your family, even this restaurant, even this table, even me." James blinked. His heart beat faster. How could a small child speak like this? It sounded like prophecy. The boy reached into a small backpack and pulled out a folded paper. He handed it to James. James hesitated but took it. On the paper was a drawing, a man and a child, holding hands, with a question mark between them. Underneath were two words, "Time will tell." James stared at the paper, feeling a strange pull in his chest. He had never been a father, never cared to be, and yet the image stirred something deep inside him. Something soft, something missing in his life. The boy leaned forward again. "I know you don't understand now. Most people wouldn't. But tonight you'll see. You'll know why I'm here and why he's here. And maybe, just maybe, you'll understand what family really means." James's throat tightened. He wanted to ask more questions, to demand answers, but he realized he didn't even know what to ask. Everything felt wrong and right at the same time. The boy had opened a door that James didn't know existed. Suddenly, the man from outside approached the table, quietly, slowly. James tensed, but the boy just smiled and waved him closer. "It's okay. You can come. He's ready." The man stopped a few feet away. He didn't sit yet. Instead, he looked at James, studying him. There was recognition in his eyes, a deep, unspoken history that James couldn't place. And then he looked at the boy. His expression softened just slightly. The boy whispered to James, "See? I told you. Everything is connected." James swallowed hard. "But how do you know all this?" The boy's eyes twinkled. "Because I've been waiting, and I've seen more than most people think I have. I've been here in the shadows, watching, learning, and now you're here." James felt something shift inside him. The fear and confusion were still there, but now curiosity took the lead. The boy's words, his confidence, his strange wisdom, it made James want to trust him, even if just a little. The boy reached out and touched James's hand. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "Tonight is about discovering, about seeing the truth, about knowing yourself and maybe knowing him." James looked at the man again. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world outside the table disappeared. Only the three of them existed. The millionaire, the mysterious child, and the man he didn't know yet. And James realized something terrifying and exciting. This night, this blind date, was not about romance. It was about life, about family, about secrets he had never known. And the boy was the key. The audience, like James, was left hanging on the boy's every word, wondering, who is this man? What is the boy hiding? And what truth will James discover before the night ends? The tension in the restaurant grew. Every sound, every movement seemed amplified. James felt it deep in his chest. Something was about to happen. Something he would never forget. And the boy, sitting there with that mysterious smile, whispered one last thing before the man finally spoke. "You're ready now? Are you ready for the truth?" James could feel the tension in the room. The boy sat across from him, his small frame calm but alert like a lighthouse in the storm. The man stood a few feet away, his presence quiet but commanding, watching both of them. James wanted answers. He wanted clarity. But somehow, he knew he would get them slowly, piece by piece. The boy leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Do you want to know who he is?" he asked. His tone was playful but serious. James swallowed hard. "Yes, I want to know. But start with why me?" The boy smiled faintly. "Because you are part of it. Part of something bigger than you think. And the moment has finally come for you to see." James frowned. "Part of what? What are you talking about?" The boy reached into his small backpack and pulled out a folded envelope, placing it gently on the table. "Start here," he said. James opened the envelope carefully. Inside were a few photographs. One was of a younger James, smiling in a garden with a woman he barely remembered. Another was a picture of the man outside, standing next to the same woman, smiling. And then the last photo stopped James cold. It was of the boy, holding the man's hand, standing in the same garden. James's heart skipped a beat. The pieces were slowly falling into place. Memories long buried stirred in his mind. Faces, laughter, moments he had forgotten. The boy's words now made sense in a strange, eerie way. "You remember her, don't you?" the boy asked softly. "The one you thought was just a chapter in your past." James nodded slowly, trying to control his shaking hands. I remember. But how, why this?" The boy shrugged, almost casually, but there was a glimmer of pride in his eyes. "Because everything you've done, every choice you've made, it brought you here. To this table. To him. To me." James looked up at the man, who now stepped closer, finally sitting across from him. His expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "James," the man said, his voice low and steady. "You don't know me yet, but you will. And tonight, you will understand everything." James's mind raced. He wanted to ask questions. He wanted answers. But every time he opened his mouth, the words felt too small for what he was feeling. The boy, sensing his hesitation, leaned closer again. "Do you want the truth?" the boy asked. "Not all at once, just pieces. Pieces you can handle." James nodded. "Yes, give me pieces." The boy smiled. "First, family. You have one you didn't know. A part of your life you never realized existed. He is connected to you in ways you can't yet imagine. And he's been waiting, just like I have, for the right moment to meet you." James's chest tightened. He had lived a life of control, of wealth, of precision. But this was chaos. Beautiful, terrifying chaos. And he didn't know how to handle it. The man finally spoke, his voice cutting through the tension. "James, you are not alone. Not anymore. Life is not about money or power or control. It is about connection, about family, about the choices you make when you least expect them to matter." James stared, trying to absorb every word. The boy reached out, touching James's hand lightly. "See? Everything is starting to make sense," he whispered. "But there's more. Much more." James looked at the boy. "How do you know all this? How did you see this before me?" The boy's eyes twinkled. "I've been watching, learning, waiting for the moment. Some things are not meant to be rushed. Some truths are revealed slowly, so you can understand them fully when the time comes." James felt a strange mix of fear and hope. The puzzle pieces were slowly falling into place, but the final picture was still missing. Who was the man? What was his connection to the boy? And most importantly, what did it all mean for James? The boy leaned back, his small face serious now. "Everything will be clear soon. But remember this, the past is not gone. It lives inside us. The people we meet, the choices we make, they're all connected. Tonight, you will see the truth about yourself and about him. James felt a chill. The suspense was almost unbearable. Every second stretched longer than the last. He was caught between fear and excitement, confusion and clarity. He realized that his life had just shifted. Nothing would ever be the same after tonight. The man leaned forward slightly, his eyes never leaving James. "James," he said quietly, "sometimes the truth is hidden until the right person finds it. You are that person, and you haven't chosen to see it. Piece by piece, you will understand, but only if you are ready." The boy smiled again, that strange mix of innocence and wisdom. "Are you ready?" he asked. James took a deep breath. He knew he had no choice. The answers were coming. And somehow, he knew this night was only the beginning. The audience, just like James, was left on edge. Who was the man really? What did the boy mean by chosen? And how would James handle the truth when it finally arrived? The suspense hung thick in the air, setting the stage for the next revelation. James sat back, staring at the boy and the man. His chest felt tight. His hands trembled slightly, though he tried to hide it. All his life, he had been in control. He had planned everything, calculated every step, every move. But tonight, nothing was under his control. Not the boy, not the man, not the strange twists unfolding before him. He tried to speak, but words failed him. Fear, curiosity, and an odd sense of excitement all mixed inside him, making it hard to think clearly. "Why me?" he finally whispered. "Why now? Why like this?" The boy smiled, small and calm, but there was depth in his gaze that James couldn't ignore. "Because you are ready, even if you don't think so," the boy said softly. "Some truths only matter when the heart is ready. And your heart has been waiting for this moment for a long time." James shook his head. "My heart has been waiting? I don't even understand." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration rising. He wanted answers. He wanted clarity. But at the same time, a strange warmth spread through him. Something inside stirred. Something he had long ignored. A longing, a desire for connection, for belonging, for family. The man leaned forward, finally speaking again. His voice was calm, but carried weight. "James, you've lived a life of solitude, power, and precision. You've built walls around yourself. You've controlled everything except life itself. And tonight, life is knocking at your door." James's mind raced. He wanted to argue. He wanted to refuse. But the boy's eyes held him still, steady and unyielding. There was no trick, no deceit, only truth. And for the first time, James realized that maybe he had been missing something all his life. The boy reached across the table, gently touching James's hand. "It's okay to be scared," he said. "Even adults get scared when they face what they've ignored. You're not alone. Not tonight." James felt a lump in his throat. His life had always been about success, money, status. But tonight, none of that mattered. The little boy, with his calm certainty, was showing James something that wealth could never buy. Connection. Trust. Family. And yet, fear lingered. What if he was wrong? What if this was a trick? What if accepting this truth would destroy everything he thought he knew about himself? James's hands clenched into fists. He wanted to run, to leave, to get back into his controlled world where nothing could surprise him. The boy noticed his tension. "James," he said gently, "fear is natural, but so is hope. And hope is stronger than fear if you let it in." James closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. He thought of all the lonely nights, the business deals, the empty houses, the parties without real friends, the money that could never replace a human connection. The boy's words struck something deep inside him, something he had buried under ambition and pride. And the man spoke again, softly but firmly. "James, this is your chance. Not to prove yourself, not to impress anyone, but to see what you've been missing, to understand what truly matters. And yes, it will be uncomfortable, fearful, confusing, but the reward is life itself." James's eyes flicked between the boy and the man. The conflict inside him raged. Part of him wanted to flee. Part of him wanted to demand answers before he allowed himself to trust. And yet, another part, a small, hesitant part, wanted to take the leap, to open himself to the unknown, to face whatever this night held. The boy's small hand rested on his. "You don't have to decide everything at once," he whispered. "Just be present. Be here. Listen. Feel. The rest will come." James's heart ached in a way it never had before. He realized that for the first time, he wasn't thinking about money, success, or control. He was thinking about something bigger, something he had long forgotten. Love, connection, trust, family. The man finally smiled faintly, a quiet acknowledgement of what James was feeling. "You will have your answers," he said. "But first, you must be ready to see them. Not with your mind, but with your heart." James took another deep breath. He felt the weight of the night pressing down, but also a strange lightness. He realized that fear and hope were connected, like two sides of the same coin. To move forward, he would need both. The boy leaned back, satisfied. "See? You're ready. The rest will unfold. Piece by piece, moment by moment. And tonight is just the beginning." James nodded slowly, a new determination forming inside him. He still had questions. He still had fears. But one thing was certain. He would not run. He would face this mystery, this truth, this family. And as the audience watched, their hearts raced with him. What would James discover next? How far would the boy's guidance take him? And what truth awaited when the pieces finally came together? The tension in the restaurant was electric. Every glance, every breath, every word held weight. James felt it deep in his chest. Life had shifted, and there was no turning back. James sat at the table, his hands folded tightly. The boy had been quiet for a moment, but his eyes never left James's face. Outside, the restaurant noise faded into a soft background hum, as if the world itself had paused to watch what was about to happen. James's mind raced. Every story the boy had told him, every cryptic hint, every photograph, every word from the man outside, everything pointed to one thing. Something big, something unavoidable. Then the man moved. Slowly, deliberately, he walked to the table. James felt his chest tighten. The man's eyes met his, calm, steady, but full of a strange intensity. He carried himself with quiet power, a presence that demanded attention without saying a word. "James," the man said, finally sitting across from him. His voice was low, controlled, almost like he had been rehearsing these words for a long time. "You don't know me yet, but tonight you will." James's pulse quickened. He wanted to speak, to demand answers, to ask the boy to explain more. But he realized that no amount of questioning could rush this moment. This was not about logic, calculation, or wealth. This was about truth, about history, about connection. The boy leaned forward, placing a small hand on James's arm. "It's okay," he whispered. "He's not here to hurt you. He's here to show you something about yourself and about him." James looked from the boy to the man, confusion and fear battling with a strange curiosity inside him. "Show me what?" he asked. The man's eyes softened slightly. "You have spent your life in control, James. Every choice measured, every step calculated. You built walls around yourself, thinking it would protect you. But life does not follow rules. Life shows you truths you cannot ignore. And tonight, one of those truths is about to meet you face to face." James's throat tightened. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down. The boy had said the same thing earlier, in whispers, in smiles, in cryptic drawings. And now it was real. The man in front of him, calm, confident, and somehow familiar, was about to reveal the secret James had never known he was missing. The man leaned closer, resting his forearms on the table. "James, I know this is overwhelming, but you need to understand, some things cannot be explained in a single conversation. They are revealed piece by piece. And tonight, you are ready to see the first piece." James nodded slowly, trying to steady his shaking hands. "Okay, I'm listening," he said, though his voice sounded smaller than he intended. The boy smiled faintly, his eyes gleaming. "Good. Then watch closely." The man reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn leather folder. He opened it carefully, revealing photographs, letters, and documents. James leaned in, his heart racing. One photograph caught his eye immediately. It was of the man standing in a garden with the boy, both smiling, both looking familiar. James felt his chest tighten. The man's face mirrored memories he had long buried, faces from his past that had seemed forgotten, erased. The boy pointed at the photograph. "See? That's the first piece," he said. "You didn't know it, but it's part of your life, part of your story, and it connects you to him." James's mind spun. The realization was starting to take shape, but it was only a shadow of the truth. Something deeper, bigger, more life-changing awaited. He could feel it. The pieces were coming together, but the final picture, the final truth was still hidden. The man's voice cut through the tension again. "James, you may feel fear, confusion, even anger. That is natural. But know this, everything you see tonight, everything you learn, it is not random. It is your life, your family, your destiny." James felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Fear, curiosity, hope, and a strange longing he had never felt before. The boy reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "You're ready," he said simply. "But the real test is about to begin. Are you ready to face it?" James took a deep breath. His palms were sweaty, his chest tight, but his eyes burned with determination. He realized that running away was no longer an option. Whatever was coming, he had to face it. He had to confront the truth. The man leaned forward, his face calm but intense. "James, the time has come to see the whole picture. Not just pieces. Everything, your past, your choices, your family, and the role you're about to play. Are you ready?" James nodded slowly. His voice was firm now. "Yes. Show me." The boy's small face lit up with a triumphant smile. "Good," he whispered. "Because tonight, everything changes." The restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Every diner, every sound, every flicker of light faded into the background. The stage was set. The final revelation was near. And the audience, like James, was left on the edge of their seats, hearts racing. Who was this man? What truth would James finally uncover? And how would his life be changed forever? The tension was unbearable. The moment had arrived. The truth was ready to step out of the shadows. James took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. For the first time tonight, he felt the weight of everything he had ignored in life. The loneliness, the ambition, the walls he had built around himself. And now, sitting across from the boy and the mysterious man, he realized that life had a plan of its own. The man finally spoke, his voice calm but powerful. "James, it's time you know the truth." James leaned forward, heart pounding. "I'm listening," he said, though the words felt small against the gravity of the moment. The man reached into the leather folder he had brought and pulled out a small, folded letter. He handed it to James. "This was written years ago," the man said softly. "It explains everything you need to know about the past and why you are here tonight." James unfolded the paper and read slowly. The words were simple, but they carried a lifetime of meaning. "James, if you are reading this, know that your life has been more connected than you realize. The boy you see is not a stranger. He is part of you, part of your family. And I am here to guide you to understand it. You are never truly alone. Love and connection have always been around you, even when you could not see it." James looked up, his eyes wide. He turned to the boy. You are my son?" The boy smiled, a mixture of innocence and pride. "Yes," he said softly. "I've been waiting for you to be ready to meet me, for you to see what family really means." James felt a rush of emotions he had never known. Salt, joy, confusion, and something deeper, a feeling he had always wanted but never admitted. Love, belonging, purpose. The man leaned closer. "James, I am the person who has watched over both of you, making sure this moment would happen when the time was right. I am your mentor, your guide. And now, you are ready to step into your life not just as a successful man, but as a father, as a family, as someone who can truly connect." James's throat tightened. He wanted to speak, to ask how, why, and when, but the words failed him. The boy reached for his hand, and in that simple touch, James felt the bridge between his lonely past and this new beginning. Tears welled in James's eyes. He had spent decades chasing wealth, status, and control, thinking they would fill the emptiness inside him. But in this moment, he realized the only thing that mattered was connection. Family. Love. The boy's small hand in his own felt like a lifeline he had never known he needed. The boy spoke again, softly. You'll learn everything as we go. But for now, just be here. Be with us. That's enough. James nodded, swallowing hard. I've waited my whole life for this. Without even knowing it, he admitted. The words were honest, raw, and new even to him. The man's eyes softened. And now you have it. But remember, James, life will continue to challenge you. It will test you. But when you have the people who truly matter by your side, no challenge is too great. You are not alone anymore. James felt his heart expand. He looked at the boy again. I promise. I will be here for you. Always. The boy grinned, and for the first time in years, James laughed, purely, freely, without thought of wealth, power, or reputation. Just joy. Just love. The restaurant seemed to fade around them. The candles flickered, the clinking of glasses softened, and for a moment, the world outside did not exist. It was just James, the boy, and the man who had guided this unexpected reunion. The silence was comforting, full of unspoken words and promises. The man stood and placed a hand gently on James's shoulder. This is only the beginning, he said. But tonight, you have learned the most important lesson. Life is about connection, love, family. Everything else is temporary. James looked at the boy, then back at the man. A sense of calm, joy, and clarity washed over him. He realized that his life had changed forever. No fortune, no achievement, no control could replace what he had gained tonight. A son, a family, and a chance to live fully, openly, and with heart. The boy leaned against James, small and trusting, and whispered, "Welcome home, Dad." James's chest tightened with emotion. He held the boy close, a mix of relief, gratitude, and love flooding through him. For the first time, he understood what truly mattered. The audience, like James, could feel the power of the moment, the mystery, the tension, the fear, and finally, the incredible emotional payoff. A life transformed, a family reunited, a millionaire discovering what money could never give him: love, connection, and belonging. And in that quiet, candlelit restaurant, James smiled, knowing he had finally found what he had been searching for all along.